Richardson fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governor should come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Good morning, America. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. I'm your host, Richard Fowler, filling in for the great and honorable Bill Press. I know when you turned on your television or you listened to your radio, you thought you heard Bill's voice, but instead, you get me, Richard Fowler, from The Richard Fowler Show. Listen, folks, as always here on The Bill Press Show, as Bill would say, there's a space for you at the table. And today's show, I was going to say tonight, but because it's still dark here in Washington, but there is a space for you here at the table. Give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS, or as always, you can tweet us at BP Show. We have such a good show for you today. We're going to have awesome guests. We're talking about the winners and losers of 2014. We're talking about the fact that in 21 states, they have finally raised the minimum wage. And we're talking about so much more. But like I said, there's always a space for you at the table. So go ahead, give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS. This is going to have a good show. We're talking defense. And then at the end of the show, we're going to talk about how you can find a way to give back in your community and commit to volunteerism. As always, this show is nothing without the great team. I think that I would call them Team Bill. You can call them A Squared, Elisa and Alicia. How are y'all doing?
Hey, how are you doing?
And on the camera, we have joining us Neil Martin. Neil, thank you for all the hard work that you do. And listen, folks, I got to tell you, we have a good show for you, but I want to start. Listen, we got our behinds handed to us in 2016. There's no question. In 2014, that was a Freudian slip. But where we did win big was in minimum wage. So while we lost a lot, right? We lost a lot of governors' mansions. We lost a lot of state legislatures. But starting this week in many states across the nation, 21 states to be precise, the minimum wage will be raised to the new rate. For right now, in a lot of places, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. That's going to go up for a lot of people and a lot of workers, and that's a big win. Now, obviously, we have to figure out here, and I think going into 2016, how we translate that win into making sure that we have elected officials that will help working families. But it's very clear that the American people believe that we've got to raise the minimum wage. I want to hear your thoughts on this, so go ahead, give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS. Also, in other news, as much as I don't like the Koch brothers, because I really don't. I don't think anybody here does, but I do agree with them on some well-needed criminal justice reform. And listen, when we agree, and Bill is the same, when we agree with somebody, we agree with them, we'll tell you we agree with them. When we don't agree with them, we'll tell you we don't agree with them. It still does, listen, it doesn't mean I'm going to go have coffee with the Koch brothers. But if they're going to give me hey, listen, I won't have, I don't think I'll have coffee with the Koch brothers.
But amen to free speech.
But amen to free speech, right? Exactly. But they're talking about how we can this is an area where I think Democrats and Republicans can actually work together, is on some well-needed criminal justice reform in this country, making sure that you're not going to jail for 30 years for doing something, for making one mistake. Because one, it's awful for the families and the communities of color. But beyond that, it's just really bad for the state economy, right? Because putting somebody behind bars means that one, they're no longer productive to the state, and two, beyond them no longer being productive, you're also costing thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year. So either way, we're talking about both of those. We'll continue to talk about them. We'll also talk about some of the winners and losers of 2014 with Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. But right now, it's time for the Full Court Press.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just some other stories making news today. I don't know if you heard, but the president has been busy in Hawaii. He actually was playing golf the other day and disrupted a wedding.
Oh, boy.
The wedding was supposed to take place between two Army captains on the 16th hole. And the president actually ended up calling them during the ceremony, and he says, "Listen, congratulations on your wedding. I feel terrible. Nobody told us." And then he happens to mention, sorry for the change of plans, but sounds like you guys are going to have a great wedding, and at least you will have a good story to tell.
See, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm sort of on, I think the president's wrong here. What are your thoughts?
I know. It's really sad. I mean, when you really plan out a wedding, and you think there had to be some sort of notice. I'm sure a wedding planner may be getting a pink slip today.
Yeah, I don't even blame the wedding planner, because I definitely, when the president decides he's going to move, the whole world in that, I guess the bubble that he lives in also moves, meaning they were like, whatever, just bump this wedding off the golf course.
Yeah, you would have thought they would have probably, like, the Secret Service had to come in and check all the wedding guests.
Yeah, I feel really bad for this couple, and I think the president should have done more than an apology. Him and Michelle should have shown up to the wedding.
It was funny, on that phone call, the couple actually, they invite him to the reception.
And of course
but he says it's going to be too much with Secret Service. He can't make it. But he did take a rain check.
How do you take a rain check on a wedding?
Exactly.
I want the bride and groom on this one. I think the president, smack on the wrist, smack, smack, smack.
I agree. So now, it being the end of 2014, we are looking at some of the top movies that came out this year, as we have Academy Award hopefuls in hand. A few of the year's movies we're looking at is American Hustle with Bradley Cooper. Did you see that?
I did not see American Hustle.
I did see it. I didn't know really what the big fluff about it was. It wasn't that great in my mind. Chef is actually getting a lot of talk. That's directed and starring Jon Favreau from The Swingers, of course, his big movie franchise. Fruitvale Station as well. Did you see that at all?
I haven't. I want to watch, like, now that it's out on, it's not on DVD yet. So once it comes out on DVD,
yes.
That's one of those movies you have to watch, like, in the dark.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and you want to. Sounds like you have a long night ahead of you.
Right.
Also, some of the other movies, Dallas Buyers Club, of course, got a lot of talk. And then a couple movies that just recently came out, Citizen 4, starring Edward Snowden, by Laura Poitras, a documentary filmmaker, as well as American Sniper, that just came out last weekend. So we'll see what happens come Academy Award time.
And we'll see what happens. Also, the movie Selma, I think, is in the running, too.
Oh, very much so. And that actually is just gotten rave reviews.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm back in D.C. I was trying to see it when I was on vacation in Fort Lauderdale, and it wasn't showing there. So I have to see it, because it's only on, like, a pre-release
Yeah, same with American Sniper. It's only out in, like, 4 cities or something.
Exactly.
So we all have to wait with bated breath.
We do, but you know what I did see over the winter holiday? I did see the movie The Interview.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Well, we will have to hear more about that, won't we?
I risked my life to see
you did. I'm so glad you're here.
They didn't hack my bank accounts.
Not yet. And lastly, there was an interesting story in the New York Times just yesterday regarding talk show hosts, specifically morning show hosts, and you being a host yourself, I thought you might enjoy this. They did a study on all of the morning show hosts that get up, how early they get up, what their routines are, what they must do in the morning. We have George Stephanopoulos of Good Morning America, of course. He gets up at 2:15 each day to meditate. We have Savannah Guthrie of Today. She's up at about 3. Mr. Lauer wakes up about 4 for a 7 a.m. hit. They do have some rituals. Laura Spencer of GMA stops each morning at Dunkin' Donuts to get her egg white sandwich. Mr. Stephanopoulos eats an apple at the end of every broadcast. And just so our listeners know, and I'm sure their viewers are very well aware, Mr. Bill Press does like his Chobani yogurt.
He does.
But normally in about the 7 o'clock hour, you'll see him break it out.
So what time do you guys get up? Because I don't don't get me wrong. If there's somebody out there watching who wants to give Richard Fowler a morning show, I'll definitely take it. But I just don't do mornings well. I mean, I'm here.
I'm a person, normally I'm up at like 2:45, and then I'm here by 4 getting audio and stuff. But I mean, I've always worked in morning radio, so it kind of becomes your blood. Alicia has an hour commute from Baltimore to get here. So that's a long, long morning before you even get to work.
It is a long morning. I mean, I could do it if I had to. Mm-hmm. I could rearrange my life and do it, but I think it would be tough. I think I'm more so like your primetime night guy.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Then you can have late nights.
I have no problem with late nights. Early mornings, Jesus take the wheel.
And that's it for Full Court.
That is it for your Full Court Press. But, as always, there's always a seat for you here at the table. So do us a favor. Go ahead. Give us a call. 1-866-55-PRESS. But, yeah, I want to talk about it. So we have a couple topics going. Well, I want to hear your thoughts out there in the universe, in the ethos. If you saw the interview, I want to get your thoughts on that. If you, if you're in one of the states where they're raising the minimum wage, give us a call. 1-866-55-PRESS. Also, if you agree with the Koch brothers and say we need some real criminal justice reform, we should all agree on that. Give us a call on that, too. And listen, like I said, the show is absolutely positively nothing without you guys. But I did see the interview, and I'll tell you about it. So I think I don't get that. Like, I think it was overhyped, and clearly the hacking scandal led to the overhype. So there is parts of the movie that I find to be completely, you would say, there's homoerotic parts of the movie which are bizarre.
Only with Seth Rogen and James Franco, I imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of homoerotic portions. And then there's this sort of, I would call it almost racism, but it's not, it doesn't really rise to the level. So it's like Prejudice, if there was like a scale of racism.
The subtle art, I guess, right?
But like, I don't see, with that being said, I think art is art, and art is what art is. And if people disagree with me, and that's fine. You could throw a tomato at me if you'd like. But, I just I didn't see the big hype behind it. Like, I think it was very reminiscent to me about the movie they did about Bush. I want to say it was a W in 2004.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I remember that.
Like, I get it. I don't understand what the hackers' deal with it was. But, hey, I saw it. You could say I saw it. It wasn't a movie that it shouldn't. It wouldn't. It's not a rate. The only reason why I saw it is because there was controversy around it, and our jobs and what we do here is to sort of watch controversial things and make snap judgments. So after my snap judgment, I don't know. I give it a half a thumb up, but it was fun. There are some parts that are funny.
Was the theater crowded when you saw it?
No, I saw it at home. Like
so you downloaded.
I downloaded it off Google Play and Chromecasted it after Christmas dinner.
Oh, okay.
With my family. And I mean, everybody's like, I don't get the hype. I don't.
Because there wasn't really much controversy outside of the fact that these people were trying to kill the leader of.
Yeah, and I mean, I also think that there's to some extent, so it was like because I think if this movie just was released in theaters without the hype, it wouldn't have made as much money as it made. And it didn't make much money, but it would have made a lot less, I would think, if it was a blockbuster release.
Bill actually thought that if this was a marketing ploy, it was one of the best in history.
I agree. I completely agree with that. I mean, I paid my $5.99 to see, to see it.
And you had to pay for your own popcorn, of course.
I did have to pay for my own popcorn. We decided, I think I had ice cream and pumpkin pie instead, but nonetheless, definitely a funny movie.
I'm not sure if a lot of our listeners or viewers have seen the interview.
No, I'm pretty sure. And listen, it's easy to you could go to Google Play or wherever and check it out. But it wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
Especially for how much the motif of free speech was spread around.
Yeah.
It really wasn't trying to be something monumental to that degree, I guess.
No, totally not trying to be monumental. Totally not trying to. It was just it was a Seth Rogen.
It was totally Seth Rogen
type of movie.
And James
funny,
Flacco.
The usual almost homoerotic, but they never get all the way there. The usual Seth Rogen bit. So, nothing really surprises me about that. It just was. But, we move on. Life goes forward. It definitely won't be an Academy Award nominee. It might get a Rotten Tomato or a Razzie, I think is what it's called, or whatever the awful movies are called. So whatever, it'll probably get one of those. And so the Sony hacking scandal will hopefully dissipate into 2014, and we could talk about the fact that 1.9 million workers are expected to benefit from a new minimum wage.
Yes, it's very exciting.
It is very exciting, and I think beyond it being really exciting, it grows the economy, folks. Like, that's the real thing here. And I think that's the thing that people never realize is that all these folks who complain about why raising minimum wage is an awful thing to do, they never look at the real economic impacts of it. Every time in this country that we've raised the minimum wage, even when George Bush did it, we saw a growth in the economy. Now, folks who don't know this, we tell this all the time on our show at the Fowler Show, but I am an economist by training, and it actually puts money in the economy. It's called the money multiplier. So for all the Republicans that don't believe it's a good idea, go back to Economics 101. I'm pretty sure your economic professor's wagging their finger at you unless they're also a crazy conservative that doesn't believe in Keynesian economics. But the idea of putting more money in the economy, right, especially when you have an economy where you don't have an inflationary economy, creates jobs, right? Because these folks who work on minimum wage they have a marginal propensity to consume. And so they consume more. And when they have more money to consume, guess what? They spend more. When they spend more, they spend at small businesses. They spend on Main Street. They spend at grocery stores. They might take the kids out to the movie theater. And that means you generate jobs and you grow the economy. And our economy's growing. So, for all those folks out there who are like, oh, Keynesian economics doesn't work. The stimulus didn't work. The Affordable Care Act didn't work. They're all wrong. We had a 5% growth in the economy last quarter, meaning the economy's growing. Now, I get it. People at home on Main Street, they're not feeling the economic growth because the economic growth is really being limited to the small crop of the top 1%, maybe the top 10%. And the middle class is starting to get some effects of it, but those who are in the working class and the poor class aren't starting to get it. And that is because we have Republican governors and we have members of Congress that refuse to spend or double down on economic growth, i.e. investing in the economy, roads, bridges, hospitals, schools. Now is the time to build it while the economy is growing, because that means then you could push that money out to the rest of us out here who are struggling, right? And that's part of the problem. That is part of the problem, America, but we could fix it. Listen, I think you hold your legislators accountable, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. We push their hand. You call. You're right. You continue to just push them forward. And we're pushing the show forward after this break. Don't go anywhere. Give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back. See?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back on the Bill Press Show. Richard Fowler here, filling in for Bill Press. But like Bill always says, there is a seat for you here at the table. So go ahead, give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS, or tweet us at BP Show or at Richard A. Fowler, and we'll deal with your tweets. We have a couple tweets from the last segment that I want to talk about. The first tweet is from Paul, Ensign Paul. Thanks for tweeting, Paul. And Paul tweets, yes. Charles Koch, we do need change in the criminal justice system. Let's start by getting money out of politics, you crook. Yes, indeed, the Koch brothers are a crook, and we should get monies out of politics. Well, we're working on that, and we have some great folks at the Wolfpack working on that and making that possible, and we love the Wolfpack here at the BP Show. While that is happening, it does not mean that we can't get some criminal justice reform done in the meantime. So, Paul, I agree with you 1,000%, and I think there's more work that we could do. And then we had somebody who tweeted in, Holly Tooker. Aren't some of these movies from last year's Oscars?
And I just noted that myself. Dallas Buyers Club came out in November, so it was one of those ones like American Sniper where it's kind of right at the end. But yes, that was last year.
It was last year.
Very noted. Thank you, Holly.
See, and you got to love the people who are like, no, and we're like, hey, listen, you're wrong, and we get you. We're going to fix it. And that's what we do here at the Fowler Show. And I was going to say the Fowler Show at the Bill Press Show. I'm so used to saying the Fowler Show because that's my home. You can catch it at Fowler Show. But right now, we'll be back talking about the winners and losers of 2014. Don't go anywhere. This show is nothing without you. So stay with us here on the Bill Press Show. We'll be right back.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back on The Bill Press Show on this fine day. We have about, 48, 47, who's counting, hours left in 2014. And then we're on to 2015 to new year and new things and new people. But right now we're going to laugh at all the losers of 2014 with Arthur Delaney from the Huffington Post. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
How was your Christmas holiday?
I did really well.
Good. What did Santa was good to you?
Yeah, I got some blue jeans.
Hey, well, if blue jeans is, hey, you got to start somewhere.
I was thrilled. I must have been good.
I love it. So you have come out with the list of the biggest losers of 2014. We have an addition to the list. We have a late breaking news edition. We could start there.
Yeah.
And then we could work backwards.
Steve Scalise.
Steve Scalise.
The House Majority
formerly
Whip.
known as a possible racist, Steve Scalise.
Well, formerly or all of a sudden, yeah. So he is the number 3 in command of the House Republicans as of their most recent leadership elections. And the story came out, it was a blogger in Louisiana, and everyone jumped on it. Louisiana is where he is a congressman from. And in 2002, he spoke to a group that was created by David Duke. A group that advocates for the civil rights of white people.
I didn't know they needed civil rights.
Well, it's a very questionable proposition, isn't it? And this is the biggest news yesterday because it happened to fall in a time of very slow politics news. I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but it just totally filled what had been something of a void. We had, a semi-missing plane. We didn't have a whole lot else at the moment. And it's gigantic. And what he has said is, I'm not racist. I was just speaking to anyone. He was a state representative at the time.
So I was speaking to anyone who would send me an invitation to speak.
Yeah. I was going around. I was opposed to this tax plan, and I would tell anyone who would listen, including this group, David Duke was not there. I abhor racism. In no way would I go and hang out with David Duke. But he's also saying, I'm a Catholic, and this is a group that is against Catholics, which is a weird.
It's like a false equivalent almost. Well,
almost, yeah, absolutely.
It's like almost like the line, I have a black friend.
Yeah, it's extremely weak. It's extremely weak in that regard.
So on that story, so Cedric Richmond, who's the African American congressman from Louisiana, said I was trying to figure that out this morning of how he sort of played into this, but he's sort of coming to the rescue of Scalise, or
not to the rescue exactly. He is a notable Democrat who is saying Steve Scalise is not racist, and there are a whole bunch of other members of Congress have come out and said the same. We endorse Steve Scalise. We don't think this reflects who he is, which is sort of de rigueur. Members of leadership haven't been as vocal. There hasn't been that full-throated endorsement from House Speaker John Boehner. I guess we're kind of waiting for the dust to settle on this. Steve Scalise is also saying, I wanted to get to this, I didn't have a scheduler back then. I was without the advantages of Google. I would never make that kind of mistake today. Google did exist at the time, but I guess it just wasn't as popular.
Yeah, but I think that there, to some extent, like when you go to a conference and you see, people selling white hoods, you would sort of be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't.
The affiliation with David Duke is a pretty good clue. He's
Yeah.
a really well-known former Grand
I'm pretty
Wizard.
sure they had like the Duke reception. I go to these type of I've never been to the Euro convention, but I go to conferences all the time, and usually the founder of the conference, you have the founder reception.
Yeah,
and the founder reception is usually they'll tell you who the founder is, and when you see David Duke, that's the cue to be like, let me put on my running shoes and run, or like Ayanna Van Zandt says when you see Crazy across the street.
Yeah, and that's what the Southern Poverty Law Center said about this. This was a well-known group at the time. Contemporaneous news stories clearly show all manner of organizations, from businesses to other groups, not wanting to be in the same hotel as them. And the SPLC said, didn't he have a clue from what the other people were saying? Apparently not. But he is very wounded, Steve Scalise is, by these attacks on him, which he describes as a blogger story, which is a way to belittle it.
Clearly not a blogger story now. The whole it's a media feeding frenzy.
Yes,
clearly.
absolutely.
So who else is on your list? Who else makes their list this year?
The important thing about this list is that it's official. There are a lot of lists of things.
Is it because Arthur wrote it makes it official?
It's myself and our bureau chief, Ryan Grimm, and you may see lists about things that happened in 2014 or people who were losers, but ours is the only one that is the official biggest losers.
You heard it here, folks.
A Huffington Post holiday tradition. Topping the list, though, it is not in any particular order, Democrats.
Yeah.
They got creamed.
We got shellacked.
Bobby Jindal.
Why Bobby Jindal?
I think it's a unique combination of two things. He's gaining weight, he's not just gaining weight. He's doing this deliberately to seem presidential. The National Review reported he had put on 13 pounds, and this is to go against the perception of him as sort of skinny and dorky, like Kenneth the Page.
So he thought if he gained a couple pounds to sort of, I guess he's trying to model Chris Christie a little bit.
Yeah. He's just trying to be a little buffer. And then Ebola came nowhere near Louisiana, and he totally panicked. So you get the big L for that.
Big L for Bobby Jindal.
We have drug warriors on this list just as a group. Marijuana became legal in a couple states, and more voters are approving it through ballot initiatives. And
right here in the Fawn District of Columbia.
And look, did society collapse?
No.
Teen pot use actually in some of these places went down.
Well, that's the thing. I think if you take marijuana off the black market and you just say, hey, listen, you can go to your stores and pick it up, it becomes like any other illicit drug, right? Or non-illicit drug, I guess, like alcohol, tobacco.
Sure, and if we're trying to explain the thinking of teenagers, if it's no longer illegal, it's a lot less cool.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see what else we've got on here. We have journalism. That's the UVA rape story by Rolling Stone. That was bad. Chris Christie.
Why this time? Was he on the list last year? I want to say. For Bridgegate.
No, Bridgegate happened in January.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that tells you how long this year has been.
Chris Christie's on this list several times actually. There is Bridgegate, but there's also he did lose like 80 pounds, so He's the biggest loser in that respect. We've got Mark Pryor on here. He was creamed in the Senate election in Arkansas. And then his farewell speech to the Senate, he said, let's take off the red jersey. Take off the blue jersey and let us all put on the red, white, and blue jersey.
Okay, well, beyond the fact that that line is awful, additionally, the reason why I'm a big believer. Well, I have 4 rules to politics, but the last 2 are the most important. 1, count your votes, and 2, double down on your record. I just hate people that run away from their record, and I think Democrats who run away from their record, they're like, oh, I voted for Obamacare, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
You lose.
He wasn't really wearing the blue jersey to begin with.
Thank you.
If anything, he had on a purple jersey the whole time. And that did not help him because Tom Cotton came in a flamingly red jersey and thumped him.
Yeah, I feel as though like the Republicans, not only do they have red jersey, like they came out with red jersey, they had like red eye makeup on, they dyed their hair red. They were just like, we are so committed to our crazy, far right agenda, and we really don't care. We don't care. We'll cut taxes, corporate welfare for all corporations. And Democrats were like, well, we don't really know, but we're not them. But we don't believe in what we voted for, so we're just here, and we're on the ballot.
In Arkansas, I definitely think that dynamic you described happened, because Tom Cotton was supposedly so vulnerable for his far-right position on the Farm Bill of great local importance, and Mark Pryor, you could tell, just thought he had him on this Farm Bill vote. In which Tom Cotton was on the extreme, wanting to get the food stamps out of it entirely, and Tom Cotton just stood there and said, "Yes,
I voted.
I was against that," and he prevailed, and that was just like boring old school political playbook by Mark Pryor, wearing the purple jersey and trying to seem sensible, and it did not work.
And to some extent, I almost blame Washington for the problem, Arthur. I got to tell you. And it's because I think sometimes here, like the consultants, and we poll everything to death, and then you just follow your heart. People, at the end of the day, whatever polls tell you, people just believe in loyal. Like people just love loyalty, and like I'm loyal to my record, whatever.
Well, Mark Pryor loved being a senator. While we're on the topic of Washington, this list includes the Washington Redskins
for not changing their name.
Yeah, the calls for a name change of this football team have never been louder, and at the same time, the team has never been more dysfunctional. It didn't have the worst record; it was worst. It was they won 4 games this year. They only won 3 last year, but they sure seemed worse.
We're on a whole red theme here, I guess.
Yeah,
I think they've been cursed by the indigenous people, and I'm perfectly okay with that.
So we could, what Mark Pryor said, they could take off the red jerseys and put on some other jersey. So Mark Pryor's advice will apply to them, and Steve Stockman, America's worst congressman
ever.
Possibly. I'm sure there must be somebody worse.
He's tied with Michelle Bachmann and Louis Gohmert for the worst.
Well, they were long-serving, and he only had this one term after he previously served in the 90s, but he missed votes. He didn't really campaign. Very strange end to his latest run.
And we'll be right back off the Bill Press Show. We got to go to break. We got to pay some bills, but you stay right here. 1-866-55-PRESS. We'll be back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back on The Bill Press Show. No, this is not Bill Press. I know we were separated at birth, and, you know, I'm his long-lost twin. That's not true at all either. But this is Richard Fowler filling in for the one and only Bill Press, who is on a well-needed vacay. And, you know, as always, as Bill will tell you, there's a seat for you here at the table. So go ahead, give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS, or tweet us at BP Show. We're reading your tweets. We're talking about your tweets. And one tweet that came in, and this is also late breaking to the official, because there are non-official loser lists, but the Huffington Post and Arthur Delaney has the official list. I guess we're adding the one and only Representative Grimm to that list.
Michael Grimm of Staten Island, who you may be familiar with from when he threatened a local reporter from New York.
So we were talking during the break, folks, and I was actually in the rotunda, like where it happened. I was about 3 or 4 like camera positions over from that.
Now the rotunda is this huge room in a house.
No, I was in the so there's the house. It was the house office rotunda, not the actual,
not the Capitol dome.
Yeah,
but in fact one of these
Cannon building,
big rooms. So you were on the balcony.
Yeah,
over which Grimm threatened to throw
said NY1 reporter over.
He threatened him not only to throw him off the balcony, but also to break him in half like a little boy. And then I guess throw the 2 remaining pieces
over the balcony.
He sounds like a really nice guy.
So you were a witness.
Of course. And the funny thing is about this, that anybody who does, and I'm pretty sure you've been on the Hill and deal like at a State of the Union, it's like what's the best word to describe it? It's almost like being at like pet adoption day at the Humane Society, where like they bring the pets around and like you have to like try to like you just grab, and all the pets are looking for a home and you just grab, like that's literally how it works. Like all members of Congress, they scurry to the cameras and they'll take any interview that they can get. And clearly,
and this one turned out not to be ready for a new home.
Not the pet you want to take home. He's the one that thrashes your couch and eats your wife's high heels.
So what I find so amazing about this story is that the question the reporter asked that so upset the congressman was specifically about the tax. They were actually about campaign finance.
Right.
But it was about illegal money mismanagement, and that has actually been the congressman's downfall for hiding $1 million through this business he formerly owned, this restaurant business. And so he just pleaded guilty to felony, and Nancy Pelosi and everyone called on him to resign, and he didn't until last night. So this is the story that was sharing the headlines with Steve Scalise on our politics page.
Steve Scalise, the known racist, or possibly associated with known racists.
Yes, even though he's Catholic and is also a victim of hate groups.
And racism, I guess. And then you have Congressman, I'm going to break you in half. Or we should just call him like Representative Break You in Half.
Right, so he didn't make it to the official biggest
He's not
losers
official enough.
Well, if this had happened prior to our curating of this list, maybe he would have, but it's something about it was just so tawdry and it just wasn't big. Michael Grimm wasn't big enough with his threats to this reporter, but now that he's totally been undone by essentially the money issues that the reporter was asking about, I think here on the Bill Press show we can add him as an addendum to the official lists. I'm sorry, Michael Grimm, it's official.
You've been added to the list. So also the other interesting name that made the list is former Democratic Senator Chris Dodd. Why Chris?
Well, because
Senator Dodd.
Senator Dodd, authored Dodd-Frank, and then was like, I'm out of here. And he became a lobbyist for the MPAA, the Motion Picture Association of America. And the film industry was under siege by this rogue dictator and his hackers. And the movie theaters were just like, oh, we won't do it. We don't have the guts. And then Sony folded under the pressure over these basically idle threats.
Idle is true.
And where was their man in Washington? Nowhere.
It's probably
he didn't say anything. What good is it having this highly
He's probably
recognizable
like windsurfing with John Kerry.
He did eventually come out and say, after Sony had capitulated, these are deplorable attacks. But I just thought Chris Dodd was extremely missing in action at that time, at a time when I think everyone could have benefited from some leadership, especially with someone who maybe understands how the federal government works and what could be done to assure people that we are safe from, really ridiculous threats.
I agree. Arthur Delaney, the official biggest loser list of 2014 from the Huffington Post. Thank you so much for being with us. Check him out on Twitter at Arthur Delaney HP. We'll be right back on the Bill Press Show with you and me. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a bit.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
they only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And we're back on the Bill Press Show. Yours truly, Richard Fowler, filling in for the one and only Bill Press, who is taking a well-needed vacation. I know we look alike, but it's not true. Listen, folks, we have such a good hour for you next hour. You want to stay around. We're talking about the economy. We're talking about defense, and we're talking about so much more. And we want to talk to you. We could talk about Ryan Grimm. We could talk about the minimum wage, or we could talk about what you got for Christmas. All of it in the next hour on the Bill Press Show. Don't go anywhere. Follow us at Bill Pre-BP Show or me at Richard A. Fowler. And give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back after this break in a new hour.
Is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished when they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back here on the Bill Press Show. Richard Fowler filling in for the one and only, the talented, the incomparable, the man, the progressive man of the morning, Bill Press, who's on a well-needed vacation. So, I said, hey, I don't have anything to do. I'll come down here and fill in for you, sir. So I'm here with the amazing team, A Squared, in the studio booth for this hour, Elisa and Alicia.
Hey, good morning. Good to have you here. We love having you here, Richard.
Thank you. And also the guy working the cameras, Neil Martin. Thanks for having Neil. Thanks for all of your hard work, and thank you for making this show a reality. But this show is nothing without you there at home, so go ahead, give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS, or tweet us at BP Show. And we're talking about it all today. Now, the last hour, before we go to the full court press, there was this big, so we gave, clearly, when we're talking about Oscar nods, we gave last year's Oscars and not this year's Oscars. So the running, I looked it up over the break just to calm the hearts and minds out there. So the top four, are you ready for this one, Elisa? We have
Go for it.
Boyhood, haven't seen
Yes.
it. Birdman, haven't seen that either.
Birdman is great. You have to see it.
The Imitation Game.
Oh, that's supposed to be really good. It's based on a true story.
And then Selma, which I will probably see, if not today, sometime in the next 3 to 4 days.
And just a little correction too. When I did that, it was just the top movies of 2014. Dallas Buyers Club did sneak in there, but it was not all Academy Award.
Yeah, because Academy Award season, it depends on when, like, the movie, if the movie's released like December 31st.
Yes.
It's Academy Award eligible for the 14 year, even though it shows, like, Selma's a great example. It's not wide nationwide release until January 9th, my birthday. And yes.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Capricorn love. But either way, there you have it, folks. We've now officially corrected the record.
Thank you for that.
Oh, listen, you would have done it for me, right?
Of course.
But right now, folks, it is time for your Full Court Press.
This is the Full Court Press.
So now that we are kind of in the theme for lists, we do have The Hill reporting the top political stories of 2014. Topping the list, we have the Ebola outbreak, which hit now. It's in, they just reported yesterday, in Scotland.
That is true.
We have ISIS that came out this year on the rise. We actually also have the story of Bo Bergdahl, which is still kind of being investigated to some degree.
I guess.
And then we also have Eric Cantor losing, the national politician.
That's a good one.
We have what they're calling the GOP gain and the Democratic pain. And then also, I would say one of the top stories, normalizing relations with Cuba.
I agree.
You can't get any bigger than that.
I agree. I think that the Cuba, and I, not to go off on a diatribe, but I think...
Please do.
Well, my thing is this. I agree with the president on this one. And all people that are protesting this is like, I think you hurt the Cuban people so they're communists. So is China.
Exactly.
And we do billions and billions of dollars of trade, trillions of dollars of trade with them.
And after 50 years, you might want to reassess what might work.
And what might not work.
Exactly.
There you go.
Also, in brighter news, we do have gas prices raising once again, actually dropping, of course. Gas prices have dropped again in the past week, as reported by ABC. The Energy Department says the price of regular gas has gone down 10 more cents in the past week to a nationwide average of $2.30 a gallon. That's $1.03 cheaper than what drivers were paying a year ago at this time. The average price in Ohio is now exactly $2 a gallon.
Wow.
So very big news in this holiday season with all the traveling going on.
The last time that gas was $2, I think I was in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first started driving, and this is dating myself, it was about 99 cents a gallon.
I remember when it was 99 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I will never forget the vivid story of my mom seeing gas for 99 cents a gallon and then like taking the car and filling it up to the brim.
Yeah, exactly. Stop, pull over, it's cheap.
Exactly.
And also, now that you've actually seen the interview, we do have some numbers on the people that did decide to go see the movie. In the wake of Sony's massive hacking scandal, the controversial film earned more than $15 million in online sales during its opening weekend. The film grossed an additional $2.8 million in select theaters across the country. Many theaters refused to show the movie in the wake of the threats against theaters across the country. And movie theater owners are actually saying that they do agree still with the fact that overall, safety was our number one concern. So some that didn't show it, they're still glad they did. But still groundbreaking numbers.
No, it definitely groundbreaking numbers. It definitely shows that, when the old school movie, well, I think in old school anything, it just we just put it on something called the internet, and people will go watch it.
Exactly. Why leave your house? It's right here.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, we watched it. If we were to go to the movie theater, it would have cost us $30. Mm-hmm. We watched it for $6, and we got the dog watched it, and
you could have opened up your house and had a cover charge.
Totally. And I mean, listen, I watched it laying on my couch. Not my couch. It was at my brother's house, but my brother's couch, and his girlfriend was there, and we could pause it and go to the. I mean, it was just a better viewing experience in the movie theater. Such
a festive thing to do over Christmas, I'd say.
Yeah, I would think.
It's the American spirit.
Sit home and watch a movie. Thank you. That was your full court press. Hey, listen, folks, I got to tell you, we're coming up on 2016. And as we get closer and closer to 2016, there is this, who's running, who's not running. Clearly, there might be a 1992 rematch, Bush versus Clinton, in a fight to the finish. Who knows? There's still, listen, I always say this to folks out there, I always believe it's way too early to call presidential elections, because if we were talking about 2008, in 2006, everybody would have thought Hillary Clinton would be the president of the United States, and that didn't happen. So, and I think the same goes for the Republicans. Now, I don't think Jeb Bush has a shot in hell of even winning the nomination. And here's why. Don't get me wrong. I think that, Hillary Clinton's going to have an uphill battle herself. But with that being said, I think for Jeb, the party, mind you, the Democratic Party is going through its own civil war, I guess some would argue. But I don't think we're really having a civil war. I think we're just sort of having a minor family dispute. They're having an all-out civil war over there. I mean, you have the far right, who are, and within the far right, there's also like a little civil war, like the Ted Cruz versus Rand Paul fight to the finish. And then you have, the centrists, which are like, I guess you put Mitch McConnell in that category.
Ooh, McConnell is centrist.
Yeah, I mean, in their world.
I get what you're saying.
And then you have Jeb Bush, who I think is, at this rate, pretty much like a Democrat in their eyes. And I also think Jeb Bush has some other problems. One, he is connected with hyper testing. Hyper testing in schools, and everybody, both Democrats and Americans, better word, red, white, and blue jerseys are adamantly against hyper testing. And I think he has all the Mitt Romney problems. The rich, elite, Silk Road was raised with a silver spoon. Now he's exiting corporate boards. Like, people are dropping dirty underwear one after the other. He leaves another. So he left the Tenet Healthcare Board this week. I think he's leaving a couple of, there we go, the Brighton Hill Holding Company. He's leaving that.
All signs.
And then there's another one, I guess, Rayoner. He's stepping away from another corporate board. He's just like, I'm not rich. Please don't say I'm rich. I'm not rich at all. I don't even know what rich looks like.
Where did I park my jet?
Yeah, even though, I have a garage for at least he doesn't have like a garage for his horses. He does take the Acela, so he doesn't take like a private train.
Oh, okay.
I've seen him on the Acela before.
Oh, really?
I have. He was in first class.
That must have been exciting.
Not really. But he's still connected with Bush 42. No, that'd be Bush. Yeah, Bush 42 and Bush 40 and Bush 43.
Oh, okay.
His two brothers. And, I don't know if people can do the Bushes again. I just don't know if we could do a third Bush. I think his mom's inclination at the beginning was right. America doesn't want another one of us in the White House. And you know what, First Lady Barbara? We agree with you. We don't want
And imagining a Bush and Clinton campaign again.
It's just like, why not just replay? It's like deja vu.
Exactly.
And, I don't know. I think that the American people are looking for something different this time around. I think all the the fact that, Republicans did this huge wave, and it wasn't like there was a huge wave of just centrists. These were it's like a huge wave of the far, like Scott Walker, Rick Scott, Tom Cotton, these people who were just loons. Louisiana, Tom Tillis, another, just crazy. And I just don't think that they're going to elect these moderate. You look at some of these, think about Mississippi, for example, in their primary where Thad Cochran, who's the older, Republican statesman, almost lost. He had to depend on black Democrats in an open primary to keep him safe. So I just think it's not this. I don't know how Jeb finds a way in. I think he'll probably do good in a general election, but I just don't know how he wins in Iowa. I don't know how he wins. If he might win in New Hampshire. South Carolina, good luck. Good luck. I don't even think he wins in Florida. If the governor's any inclination.
Do you think his stance on immigration is going to play any type of role in his moves? Of course it is.
Because, the Republican Party is anti-immigrant. Let's just put it out there. Even the ones who are immigrants are anti-immigrant. Which it's almost nonsensical. Marco Rubio wrote the bill, and then as soon as he voted for it, ran like hell. I didn't vote for that bill. I don't know what you're talking about.
What?
Eric Cantor, and we were talking about him in the Full Court Press, basically lost his election because he talked to the president about immigration. That tells you sort of what's going on in the Republican Party. So yeah, I think they roll, and don't get me wrong, I think every party is guilty of some sort of level of tokenism. So they roll out, Sandoval or Martinez or Rubio and, hola mi amigos. And, all of a sudden it's supposed to be the party of Latinos, and it's just not true because on the issues they're wrong. I think Jeb is actually okay on immigration, but him being okay on immigration puts him a distant left of his party.
That's very true.
Which creates a problem.
Regardless of how many times they eat at Tortilla Coast.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And listen, folks, we want to hear your thoughts on this. Go ahead, give us a ring, 1-866-55-PRESS. And you also tweet us, and we'll read some tweets when we come back from the break. But this show is absolutely, positively nothing without you. We'll be right back after the break on The Bill Press Show. Don't go anywhere.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership. before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show, and this is yours truly, Richard Fowler, filling in for the one and only Bill Press. Check us out at BP Show, or me at Richard A. Fowler Show, or you could give us a call at 1-866-55-PRESS. We have a tweet here from JRF195959 who says, I am waiting for all the other crook politicians to follow suit. And she's talking about Representative Grimm, who has resigned, and I guess all the other corrupt politicians should follow suit. And you know what, JRF 195959, I agree with you, love. And thank you so much for watching the show. We appreciate you much. But right now, we're going to talk to John from Minneapolis, Minnesota. John, how are you doing? Good morning.
I'm very good, thank you. I'm also looking for somebody that would be inspiring, and I like both Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, but I doubt if either of those are going to seriously that they're going to run. But I think
So wait, are you saying, John, that you're not inspired by Hillary Clinton?
No.
So would you vote for her in the primary, or would you vote for her in the general?
Well, I'm a loyal Democrat. I've never voted for a Republican in my life. I've been voting since 1974, and I would vote for her if that's all that was offered. But I don't find Hillary Clinton. I think she'd just be a middle of the road.
So she'd be boring.
She'd be boring, very favorable to corporate America. We need to have politics outside of the influence of corporate America, and I know that's a big order to. That's something that may be almost fantastical to think about, but I think that's what a lot of middle-class people are looking for, a lot of people who are involved in these demonstrations are looking for. They're looking for a real change, and we're not going to really get it, I don't think, unless they reform themselves, and I don't really see that that's...
So I have a question for you, John. And thanks for calling in. We appreciate you calling in. So do you think that is it possible, and listen, I don't have a horse in this race at this point in time because no horse is announced, but do you think it's possible that, an Elizabeth Warren can sort of overtake what seems to be the inevitable Clinton nomination if she decides to put her hat in the race?
She's motivated by something that is really unpolitical, or that a lot of politicians aren't motivated by, and that is more of a statesman-like motivation of doing the right thing, for ordinary people. I think that that's something that politicians haven't done for years. They have to play to the Foxosphere and they have to play to Wall Street, and then we get whatever is left over, and that's why I think a lot of people just don't, they don't show up at the polls, they don't believe in it anymore. I started voting in 74. My first big election, I voted for a liberal, Mo Udall. I supported him over Jimmy Carter. He would have made an excellent, but those kinds of times are over.
Is it that, John, you're just a bleeding heart liberal, and the rest of us we're too far? I'm asking, are we too centrist? I don't have a horse in the race, but
yeah. I believe in the truth. I have moral ideals, and I like those expressed in my politics, like Bernie Sanders. He expresses very exactly what he believes in, and in Vermont it works very well. I was a supporter of Paul Wellstone, who was very idealistic also, and until he died, that worked very well. It appealed to very conservative farmers here in Minnesota.
All right, John. Well, listen, I hear you. I think there's some rhyme to your reason here. I think, there's an argument to be had about getting folks or getting candidates who really truly understand the power of the people. I love Elizabeth Warren. I actually, listen, there's the person that really upsets me that they count out in this race is the sitting vice president of the United States. Joe Biden is still around.
That's so true.
And I think that, if they just let Joe Biden be Joe Biden, which I don't think this White House does enough of, let Michelle Obama be Michelle Obama and Joe be Joe, we'd be in a better place today.
Best sound bites ever.
There you have it, folks. We'll be right back after this break.
Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back on The Bill Press Show. Before we get to the man of the hour who's joining us in studio, I want to just give you some breaking news. So they have confirmed that the debris floating around in the Java, I think it's the Java Sea, is that right? Is the debris of the lost Air Asia flight. 40 bodies have been recovered from the sea. Sad, sad day. But, I mean, the silver lining in this cloud is at least they found the plane and there's some closure for these families. And our prayers go out to these families, especially in the new year. It's really hard to lose a loved one in the new year. So to all of those folks who were on that flight, nothing but prayers and heartfelt good stuff and good energy going to you guys, and sorry for your loss. And, you know, we got to do a better job of making sure. Mind you, with that being said, this is one of the safest years for air travel. But yet still, we have tragedies like this, and so we're sorry that they happened.
And it was such a short flight, too.
Yeah.
It was really sad. But, I mean, it is nice that we do have some closure on it.
Yeah.
Unlike other airplanes we've
like
lost.
Malaysia Air, which, you know, could have possibly been abducted by aliens.
So says CNN anyways.
Anyway, in other somber news, in just a couple of days, the balanced government of the United States House of Representatives will be no longer balanced. It will now be on one side of Pennsylvania Avenue, you have the fighting Republicans, and on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue, you have the lame duck president, who might not be a lame duck after all because of economic growth, and they are now battling out. They'll be battling it out in a fight to the finish in the next 2 years. We're joined by Kevin Cirilli. Tell me, what's your thoughts on this? So really, like, we're going to have to balance Pennsylvania Avenue.
Well, yeah, Richard, good morning, and thanks for having me. You know, what I was thinking last night, though, is the House Republicans, at least, are kind of had a rocky day yesterday. You've got Steve Scalise, the third highest ranking member in the House, House Republicans. The reports coming out that he spoke to a white supremacist group. That is definitely not a headline Republicans want heading into the new Congress. Also, late last night, Michael Grimm announcing that he's resigning. He's, of course, the Republican from New York who was indicted on multiple counts of tax relating to tax evasion.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier in the show. He also threatened to throw NY1 reporter off of a
He's
balcony.
the viral sensation, perhaps jobs outside of the Beltway. That's what he's most known for. But yeah, so they're getting off to definitely in the headlines at least these next couple of days. It'll be interesting to see how they play that. But you're right. I mean, we are at the beginning of what's going to be an epic wonk war battle showdown in the next early part of next year on issues ranging from they're going to have hearings on Cuba, on immigration. That's going to come up again in the headlines because of the Cromnibus funding and all of that runs out just at the end of February, early March. Not to mention, of course, you mentioned the economy. We saw in the Cromnibus wrapped into that spending bill, there were a couple of key provisions relating to Wall Street regulations. That fight's going to continue. So yes, you're right. This president really going to have a showdown, and what he decides to do, whether he goes more to the left to the Elizabeth Warren wing of the party or moves to the center, that's what I'm going to be watching closely for.
I agree there. I think, there is going to be this, how is the White House going to posture? I think the good news for the White House is you have great gas prices on this downward spiral, which is a good thing for the economy.
I was traveling up and down 995 this weekend, and I got to tell you, I was like, yes, gas is cheap.
Yeah, gas is cheap. You have 5% economic growth after the last quarter. Boding well for this president is economic growth. I think also boding well for this president is on his larger agenda. I'm talking about the top of the show, right? 21 states this week will now have a raised minimum wage. So you have those things. And then on the other side of that, you have, the fact that he's still going to have to deal with he's going to, the Democratic Party needs to get a clear message and narrative together. And then you have the Republicans who are going to double down on what it is they double down on. So we're talking about tax cuts, corporate Wall Street giveaways.
Yeah. Well, Richard, that's a great point. And, particularly with the issue of minimum wage, we really saw this to some extent injected into the national dialogue ahead of the midterms. But a lot of Democratic strategists that I talk to, they say, and even Republicans, they say that's not enough of a plan. You can't run a presidential campaign ahead of 2016 or even to some extent the next midterm cycle just on minimum wage. There needs to be a concrete economic growth plan. And that's why you're hearing a lot of Democrats, including Vice President Joe Biden, Senator Bernie Sanders yesterday had an op-ed on the Huffington Post. It really read like a presidential platform almost, talking about things like infrastructure investment, talking about things like
No, I love Joe Biden, by the way. I actually think, not to interrupt you, but
go ahead.
I think like in this whole 2016 fight, people are counting out good old Joe.
Oh, yeah, you can't underestimate Joe Biden.
You never can underestimate Joe Biden. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, and he's from, he's got that...
He's from the school of the hard knocks.
Exactly. And he represents, that blue collar. He connects, I think. He
connects to where Democrats have to win, Joe connects the best. Scranton, Pennsylvania, Democrats have to win
My grandmother grew up there.
Pittsburgh. Cincinnati,
outside of Philly,
Columbus, Ohio. Those that is Joe Biden country.
Yes, and 2016, of course, is the shadow hanging over all of this.
Yeah.
And we've seen. What I'm interested is to see if the vice president does decide to run, how is he going to start to differentiate himself from the president, or will he run as a continuation of the president? But we've seen Hillary Clinton having to move away on certain issues and create space on certain issues. So that'll be interesting too.
I think you're right on that one. And I think that's really the question. The president could do two things. If the president stays centrist, he sort of opens up the door for the Hillary Clinton nomination. But I think all indication shows, and I think for me the indicator was, and I want to get your thoughts on this, and you'll be with us in the next segment, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, I believe, is the fact that, the president has still doubled down and saying, I refuse to make any movement on Keystone, which would have been I would say the mea culpa.
Right. And it's not only Keystone, but I think that could be a bargaining chip, if you will, Richard.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think he can get the minimum wage if he gives them Keystone.
Yeah, and also issues of Wall Street regulation, which he held firm on in the in some of the deals, and he totally killed the tax extender package to Harry Reid's dismay. I mean, this was a huge bipartisan deal that was months in the making, billions of dollars worth of tax breaks extensions. The president said this is not going to help working class Americans. He said it was too much in favor of big businesses. He killed that deal, got some criticism from that from within his own party, but clearly he's saying, I'm still the leader of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I think that what we saw in 2014, I think the president got a wake-up call, is that the party lacked boldness, where the Republicans were very bold, and I was talking about a couple in the last hour. Democrats were, wishy-washy. And
they didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
They didn't have a vision.
No message, no plan, and that's why the Republicans are now in control. The problem now, I think, for the Republican Party is they're going to have to govern, and governing is going to be hard for them.
Well, they finally have an opportunity, after being labeled the party of no, to actually pass bills to put on the president's desk and kind of, say, hey, here's what we got, here's what we came up with. And so that's the battle. So a lot of pressure is going to be put on the president and to kind of have that dialogue with Congress. And that's why I think when you talk of issues like Keystone, talk of issues like cleaning up the 2010 Wall Street Reform Act, Dodd-Frank, and tax breaks to some extent, all of these issues are things that really could happen if there's a bipartisan feeling in the air. But I mean, we always talk about this start of new Congress, but No, I know.
And listen, I got to tell you, I'm not
to be a pessimist.
No, and I am the biggest progressive out there, but I will tell you this: when Mitch McConnell gave his post-election press conference, I was actually like a little excited. I'm like, wow. I mean, he was like, listen,
am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, he's like, we want to make some deals.
Richard, you are saying that you were motivated by Mitch McConnell's post-election speech. Wow, that's very interesting. I never thought I would hear a progressive.
No, I mean, I just think that, not because I agree with Mitch McConnell on anything relatively important, but it's because it was just bold, and I think we've lost that. Every American politician, besides the crazy. Well, no, I take that back. Besides the far right, and I think the far left are the only people that have some sense of boldness. Everybody else is just they come out in the morning, they see what the weather report is, and then they get dressed for it instead of saying, this is what I wear every day no matter what.
Well, and also, I think just a few weeks ago, there was not a government shutdown. It was a late night on Capitol Hill that night, but there still wasn't a shutdown. And so I read into that as, okay, they're not shutting down the government this time, so maybe that's a signal that things will get a little better. Because, we always talk about what's going on inside the Beltway, and we talk about, all of the 5.8 unemployment and all these numbers and stuff, but it's the folks who are just out of the holiday season, who are looking at their income, who are looking at how much money they had to spend on gifts, and yes, gas prices going down, but there is a lot of economic uncertainty out there. And the pace of the economic recovery, that's still frustrating people, and I think people are looking for a boost. They're not looking.
They haven't felt it yet.
They haven't felt it yet. And when
so there's 5% GDP growth, but it's just not in.
Yeah,
it's not there. Anyway, we'll be right back on the Bill Press Show. We got to go to break. We got to pay some bills. But you can join the conversation 1-866-55-PRESS or at BP Show. We'll talk about some of your tweets when we get back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to the Bill Press Show on this fond Tuesday morning. About 30 hours, 40, I don't know, I said 48 or 47 last hour. I guess it's 46 hours until we are officially in a new year. I'm probably wrong.
Who's counting here?
Hey, you know, out with the old, in with the new. Right? Let all acquaintance be forgotten. We're joined by Kevin
Cirilli.
I'm awful at last names.
It's okay. It's okay. It's Italian, you know. It's a tricky last name, but Kevin Cirilli.
I'm awful at last names, Kevin.
Don't worry about it. Thanks for having me, Richard.
Don't throw a tomato at me.
I don't have any tomatoes. So
or, you know, like a rotten egg or whatever.
Or my coffee.
Don't do that either. Not on television. So, and especially not on my sweater. And I'm going to talk about, just for 2 seconds. So somebody tweeted that, like, I cannot believe Richard wore this sweater. I think it's a nice sweater. I, like, personally, you know, I try to be as fashion sensible as I can.
I have no fashion swag. Everyone always makes fun of me.
Listen, why not be bold and, like, you know, go out with the, I don't think it's an ugly Christmas sweater. I think it's a cute, ugly Christmas sweater, so I wore it.
It's nice with the neckline and everything. It's very nice.
Yeah, I'm all about the duck collars. That's a big deal for me. Either way, in more seriousness, we have a caller, Carl from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the Bill Press Show, Carl.
Hey, how you doing? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Kevin and Richard and Kevin.
Carl and Carl.
Doing a good job.
Thank you.
What's up? What you got for us, Carl?
I had one thing that I wanted to mention, that the Keystone Pipeline basically has been rendered a non-issue because of the drop in oil prices, because it costs roughly $80 a barrel for them to be profitable to extract oil out of the tar sands out of the Keystone Pipeline, and it's dirty oil to begin with, and oil from the Middle East, the OPEC oil, it costs about $5 or $10 a barrel to get the oil out of the ground from the Saudis. So they're still doing fine. They're doing great at $53 or $55 a barrel, whereas the Keystone and all the other domestic smaller wells that were more expensive, they've basically been capped and shut down because it's not profitable, and they might as well make the Keystone Pipeline a giant water slide going through the country.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that definitely the Keystone Pipeline battle is going to absolutely reemerge this year, simply because. And the interesting dynamic here is we always talk about the tension between the Tea Party and the centrists in the Republican Party, but this is an issue that really has Democrats divided, and I think that's going to be on full display, especially as we head into a new presidential election cycle. So I think issues like Keystone really are going to have a lot of legs and a lot of momentum, especially in the media as well. So I expect this issue to fully reemerge. I think the president really is it could upset a lot of people in his base, but this is the 2-year window if it's going to get done for it to happen.
I actually agree with that. And listen, here's the thing. I think you're right, Carl, that because, the OPEC countries are like, we need to sort of we need to price out of the market and suffer for a little bit all of these other folks that are sort of taking away our profits. They've now driven the price of oil down. And in driving the price of oil down, they've actually made Keystone a more appeasing thing for the president to use as a bargaining chip. So this is all like in a fairy tale world. This is actually working out for the president, because if he decided to come off and give Keystone, which he's not really losing anything, because you're absolutely right. Like burning the tar sands is one, horrible for the environment, but two, just costs too much, right? I think he can gain a lot, because if he gives them Keystone, I think he could get minimum wage easily. And I've said this before. I think if the president gives away Keystone, he gets minimum wage. Working families start to feel the impact of the economy, and Keystone becomes a non-issue because OPEC is going to price them out.
But don't underestimate the power of the green progressives. I mean, don't underestimate the green activists, because I think that if he gives them Keystone, that will, a lot of people in the Democratic Party will be very upset. And we saw this just the other week. I mean, you remember the protests. I mean, I couldn't even get down Pennsylvania Avenue because there were so many protesters. So I think he's in a tough spot on this.
Here's the thing with the Greeners and the Green protesters, and I love them. I love them, but I think the Green machine, what they lack in, what they have in resources and money, they lack in people, right? I just don't know if they have the people.
Oh, momentum is clearly, I agree. I mean, I don't think they have the momentum on this issue at all.
Because you look at all the candidates who were against Keystone, and the Green pumped a lot of money into their campaigns, they just didn't win. So I think because the minimum wage is such an important issue, the president's gonna have to give something away to get the minimum wage. That's just that's Hill politics.
Yep. But yeah, so
I'm pretty sure the Greeners out, the environmentalists and the Green folks are blowing up the lines.
I know.
And I will battle any of them especially because at the end of the day, no matter what happens, we don't need to be an oil dependent nation. I'm not saying we should, but the reality is we depend on crude oil.
Yeah, and I think that this is clearly an issue that resonates with a lot of people just outside of the Beltway. It's something that a lot of everyone goes to the pump, everyone knows the gas price, and so I think that this has a lot of legs and impacts a lot of Americans. So it'll definitely.
Well, you have a lot of legs, and you impact a lot of Americans as well. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are the true winner, coming in on a Tuesday.
Of course. Happy New Year to you, Richard.
Happy New Year to you, too.
And to my friends on the Bill Press Show.
We love you, Kevin.
We love Kevin here at the Bill Press Show. We love you, too. Stay with us for the next hour of the BP Show. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back on The Bill Press Show. Richard Fowler here, filling in for the one and only Bill Press, the incomparable Bill Press. In the next hour, we have such a good show. We're talking about how you can use volunteerism and national service to help your community in the new year. And I would be remiss. Now, we're going to talk about this a lot more on the show tomorrow. I'm filling in tomorrow as well, so I saved the goodies for tomorrow. But I do want to talk about it just to tease the great show we're going to have tomorrow about, this continued struggle between police and communities of color. And I will go more into a diatribe about it tomorrow, I promise. But I just want to put out there that, listen, folks, we've got to do a better job in this country right now. I've never seen our country more divided when it comes to, police and communities of color. And it's a really, really sad situation. When the police turning their backs to Mayor de Blasio was absolutely insane. And I think beyond that, we've just got to do better as a country. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow, I promise. But we'll be back after this break, and we have another great hour of the Bill Press Show. Join the conversation, 1-866-55-PRESS, or I'll take your tweets during the break for those who tweeted us. And we'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
This is The Bill Press Show.
James West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back on The Bill Press Show, 6 minutes after the hour. If you got to get somewhere, you're 6 minutes late if you're trying to get to the top of the hour. But either way, you're 6 minutes late and you're still here with us on The Bill Press Show. Richard Fowler filling in for Bill Press. I know we look alike and we sound alike, but we were just separated at birth. I kid you. Listen, there's always a seat for you here at the table. 1-866-55-PRESS. Or you could tweet us at BP Show or tweet me at Richard A. Fowler. We're answering your tweets. I answered tons of tweets during the break, and I will continue answering your tweets until you stop tweeting them. I promise I will. Listen, folks, and other top headline for you today. So as we already know, they have found the missing plane. AirAsia flight has been found, and they've recovered 40 bodies, as a Navy spokesperson. That's what they told Reuters. So the good news is that at least the plane has been found. The sad news is that, more lives have been lost, but at least there's a sense of closure. And a sense of closure is a really, really good thing for these families. Especially it's tough to lose somebody in the new year. So our hearts and prayers go out to all of those families who their loved ones were on AirAsia. Nothing but prayers and thoughts to them on this almost final day of 2014.
You're taking us to the new year.
I know,
Richard.
I am taking
it's on your shoulders
driving
to carry
the Bill
us.
Press Show into the new year, America. Yes, I am. Yours truly. Bill Press trusts me enough for me to drive this to the new year, and I promise I'll get you. Well, we might lose a tire or two or a headlight, but we'll make it there. We will definitely make it there. But before we do that, it's time for your Full Court Press.
This is the Full Court Press.
Here's some other stories making news today. Authorities in Massachusetts say a goat is on the lam in Lowell after breaking out of his pen on a nearby farm. A witness who posted a picture of the goat online says at least a dozen police officers and animal lovers chased the goat throughout the cities overnight, to no avail, of course. Eyewitness accounts say it hopped over barrels. A bartender said it stopped by a local bar. And still, there's no sign of the goat in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Ouch.
So if you have some time off and you live in Lowell, there's something to do.
Go goat chasing.
A state agency in Minnesota is claiming the world record for the largest ball of paper.
Oh, boy.
The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency says the ball measures 9 feet, 7 inches tall, and 32 feet in circumference. The 426-pound ball was displayed at the Minnesota State Fair to show how much recyclable paper state residents throw away every 30 seconds. But I'm sorry, Richard and Jeremy. If you missed the fair, you're out of luck. They did recycle the whole entire ball, and it's now your cereal box.
Oh, boy.
You missed out, man. I'm telling you.
I definitely missed out, Jeremy. We missed out.
Definitely. Come Thursday, it is big football games going on, especially some of the bowl games. The Rose Parade happens this weekend. Make sure you see who's riding on the lead float. Actually, in 1958, beauty queen Joan Williams was not allowed to ride on the Rose Parade after Pasadena officials found out she was African American. She will be in the parade this year. Joan Williams is now 83. She says she can't wait to ride on the lead float. It's exciting. I'm just delighted. Really delighted to be in the parade in 2015. So that's very, very happy, very good news. It's very exciting. It's going to be this weekend.
All right. Thank you. So before we get to Jeremy Herb from the Politico, I want to address some of these tweets who are bashing me on Keystone. I knew they would. I said, I know you guys are coming for me. I expected the tomatoes come my direction, but let's talk about I'll talk about the facts here. The reason why oil prices are on the decline, the reason why OPEC nations who met about, 3 weeks ago, right? That sounds all right, Jeremy? 1 month ago, 3 weeks ago?
Something like that, yeah.
The reason why they basically said we're going to go down on price is because they want to price out the market, all of these tar sands, all of these fracking, all other types of oil. We want to price out the market because we know our oil is cheaper and we can get it to the market a lot faster, right? So because of that, we have a decline in gas prices. So even if the president were to approve the Keystone right now today, which is why there's a possibility he could do it, right? It wouldn't matter because I guarantee you they wouldn't burn that much tar sands because it's uncompetitive to do so. It's going to cost them too much. They're going to lose money. That's why, unless we're talking about already tapped wells or already burning tar sands, nobody's burning new tar sands. They're just burning the old wells they already have. So the reason why I think it's a good deal for the president is he gives the Republicans Keystone, knowing good and well the market says you're going to price all these people out the market, right? You'll get some jobs, some pipe fitters will get some jobs building this pipeline. You'll stimulate the economy. Now, I think if he's going to give them Keystone, you don't give it to them for free. You give it away for something good, like raise the minimum wage for all American families to $10.10, or for infrastructure investment, or for, cutting taxes for middle-class families, or for paying teachers more money. There's so many things you can give, and that's why the AFL-CIO has been like, hey, listen, we're sort of okay with the Keystone. But beyond that, the economic indicators tell us that even if we gave them Keystone, it wouldn't be what it wouldn't be this this big job creator that Republicans think it is. So let's give it to them. Let's show them that they're wrong. No oil will come out the pipeline, and we'll all go back to life as normal. So for all those people who hate me or hate what I said, that's why I said it. It just makes good political sense because we already know that OPEC countries aren't going to stand for the Keystone pipeline. And at the same time, maybe what the president can do is give them Keystone in exchange for, other forms of green energy. There's just so many things he could do by giving the Republicans something they want that's not going to work. Sometimes my mom always used to say growing up, sometimes you got to give people what they want even though it's not good for them. Just let them know. Give them enough rope to hang themselves with. And I'm pretty sure that they will.
We'll see now if the White House is listening to that year strategy advice.
They probably aren't, and people on Twitter are going crazy. Barbara tweets in that that Bill would vomit at this crap. I think Bill's a sensible guy. He might vomit at it, he might not. But hey, listen, it's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. And I'll hold my position on it. I will not let it just makes political sense. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. So
moving on to other topics. I'm going to calm down a little bit. And not that I don't love you, Barbara. I love you. I love you so much. I promise that I do. But let's talk about, speaking about, OPEC and sort of moving our way to that part of the world.
Sure.
The president, or I guess they've had a small ceremony this week saying we've ended the Afghanistan war for the 5th, 6th, 8th time.
Yeah, the official end to combat operations.
This is the second time. Have they officially ended combat operations before in Afghanistan?
Officially, I don't know that they have. They've announced that they're going to. They've announced that they're no longer taking the lead in combat operations. That they've given that to the Afghan forces. But now we are officially out of combat operations, except for the fact that we still have something around 10,000 troops that are going to be staying there. For the most part, over the next 2 years. The idea is they'll be there to advise the Afghan forces, and they still may be some special operations missions that are undertaken by U.S. forces as well. So it's symbolic in some ways. It is somewhat meaningful, you could say, but we're not leaving Afghanistan like we did leave Iraq back in 2011.
But we left Iraq and we're sort of back in Iraq.
Well, that's the whole rub of all of this, right. Is that, yes, we left Iraq, things went bad, the rise of ISIS came about, and now we're back in Iraq. And you hear Republicans warning that the same thing is going to happen in Afghanistan because we're announcing this withdrawal. We're announcing that we are going to be gone in the next 2 years, and by doing that,
But all right, so here's the thing, because I mean, the thing about ISIS here is that I think I actually think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, and you're the expert, to you like Richard, you're wrong. But my thought is that the reason why ISIS was able to develop had less to do with the U.S. presence there and more to do with the horrible al-Maliki government.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a difference now with Afghanistan because they got rid of Karzai, who
thank God
similarly was problematic like Maliki. And they had some struggles this year with their election and accusations of fraud and all that. But right now they have a government. The government wants the U.S. there. They want the U.S. helping. So that is a good sign in terms of fighting back the Taliban. At the same time, you have the Taliban, which is a concerted force and is going to keep going after the gains that have been made over the past decade. But yeah, the rise of ISIS, right now those conditions aren't in Afghanistan. But if we, the danger, of course, is what happens when we do leave if the Afghanistan military similarly falls apart like the Iraq military.
So switching to Iraq for just a second, if we can, because here's the thing. Like, I think what ISIS is doing is something, and I've been a big Joe Biden fan all morning, so I think I'll continue my streak. So what ISIS is sort of fighting for seems to be what Joe Biden said like 10 years ago, right? Like this whole idea of a 3-state solution, right? Let's divide the country up and, you get your part, the Kurds get their part, everybody's happy. And it seems as though ISIS is, don't get me wrong, I think they need to be dismantled. I think they're a terrorist group. But they seem to be sort of saying, when they declare themselves to be, the owners of said land or the ISIS state, seems to be almost the same sort of thing that could have been part of the solution to begin with.
Potentially, although I don't think this initial solution that Biden was talking about, it would have involved a group like ISIS. Right. At the same time, we don't have the ability, unless we're going to commit a lot more troops, and right now there's no support for that, either in the White House or in the public. We can't push ISIS off of the land that they have. It's not going to happen unless there's a big Middle Eastern force or a U.S. force or something that comes in. We just don't have the capability to do that without committing a lot more troops. So it's kind of a stalemate. That's the best the U.S. can hope for, and that they do contain ISIS. They cut off their supply lines between Iraq and Syria and don't let them threaten other countries like Jordan.
Right, and I think that's the hard part, right? Because you have a Syrian government that we don't like, but we're holding our nose and dealing with because we don't want ISIS to spread. But with that being said, you've now created this sort of it's a completely destabilization of the region. And yet there's nothing that we really can do about it because the nations in the region had to sort of pick up the ball here.
Yeah, it's definitely a frustrating situation. In Iraq, the U.S., their big effort this year is going to be, next year, training the Iraqi forces so that, when ISIS comes, they don't just drop their arms and run away.
And run
exactly. Syria, it's a lot more complicated. Congress has approved authorization to train Syrian rebels, but that, the rebels are more interested in fighting the Assad regime than they are in fighting ISIS. So it's tough to see how we get that force in Syria that actually can, push ISIS back.
Gotcha. Now, also coming up and we're going to talk about this after the break in just a bit, but before we go to break, I want to tease this out a little bit. Is this idea that with all that being said, the Pentagon, not only are they going through leadership change, but they're going to have some big budget fights in the foreseeable future.
They are. Sequestration, the word back from 2013, is going to be rearing its head again. The caps will come back in full in the next year's budget. And you're going to see, I think, a big fight over this with Republicans controlling both chambers. And obviously, Obama is still in the White House. The president is going to submit a budget that likely busts through those caps by raising revenues, raising taxes that Republicans are obviously going to reject. The question then is, what do they do in response now that they control both chambers? They may cut elsewhere in order to reach that same number for the Pentagon. But it's unclear exactly how they come to that resolution. And I think we could see some more threats of shutdown and that sort of thing returning again next year.
Well, we're going to talk about that after the break on the Bill Press Show. But right now, we've got to pay some bills. So we're going to break. And listen, you could join us at 1-866-55-PRESS or check us out on Twitter at BP Show, me at Richard A. Fowler. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And we're back here on The Bill Press Show. Richard Fowler filling in for the one and only, the incomparable, the clearly tired, took a vacation Bill Press. Hey, so he's got to take a break, y'all. So you guys get stuck with me. I know. I'm not I don't look as good as Bill, but I try my best. We're also joined by Jeremy Herr from Politico. Welcome to the show, or welcome back to the show from the break.
Thank you.
So, let's take a call. We have a call. Joey from Chicago wants to talk about ISIS. Hey, Joey.
Yeah, ISIS, they're having a little bit of problems in the cities, I was reading and I heard from somebody, because they don't have any engineers and they don't know how to run the cities. They have electricity maybe 2 hours a day and water maybe 2 hours a day, and that's in Mosul. So you know what? The citizens of them cities are going to eventually get sick of that, and ISIS will end up self-destructing. I don't know, big, but People are going to get sick of this. They don't know how to run the cities. They don't have any expertise in any engineers. So when something breaks, it stays broken. And people only put up with that for so long. So I think they bit off more than they can chew. I really do.
Well, thanks, Joe. We appreciate you. What do you think about that?
I mean, it is a problem for them. And, they've captured all this territory, and now they have to govern. And that's, it's easy to be the insurgent force and all of that. But governing is a lot more difficult.
Sounds like the Republican Party.
But no, providing basic services, that is a challenge for them right now. And I think, we could see them lose support within the public. They have a certain segment, they produce very flashy videos. They're big on social media, and they're doing that to try and recruit people and win the PR battle, in the Middle East that they, for their ideology. But you can't provide people water, you can't provide people shelter. That's obviously that is a problem.
So, do you think at some point in time, so in the long-term calculus, right? Somebody sitting at in the Defense Department or sitting at state, what are they saying? Are we just going to sort of starve the beast, or what's the plan?
I think that's part of it. I do think they're obviously looking broader than that in how we can combat them. We're still launching airstrikes against them in Iraq and Syria. But one of the key things they did, and when they first started launching airstrikes, was trying to cut off the supply lines between Iraq and Syria. Because in Syria, they did have a lot of mobility. They could basically go wherever they want because it's such chaos there. And so they could take supplies from Syria and bring them up into Iraq. When they've got weapons from the Iraqi army, they could send them back and vice versa. So cutting that off, it makes it more difficult for them to do everything from, getting their battle plans ready to, providing electricity.
Got it. So now, as far as how does this all interplay with, the fact that we do have, so let's put this all into play. You have Afghanistan sort of winding down. You have Iraq, which is the quagmire that is. You have ISIS. You now have Syria. And you also have, the possibility that the Pentagon could lose a crap ton of money, and you have new leadership. So how does this all play? I know that's a hard question.
It's going to make for a very interesting year in the defense world. I think, I think the big picture is that we are not leaving the Middle East. I think the president came into office hoping he would be the president who wound the wars down in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and brought us out. And that it's just not going to happen. And he's acknowledged that. We weren't going to have the hundreds of thousands of troops that we had during the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but we're not leaving. And I think that argument is going to be used by the Pentagon to try and push for more money, to try and get rid of sequestration. We've heard them talking for years now about how dangerous this is to the military. They're not going to be ready if these cuts stay in place. And now, they can point to ISIS, they can point to having to stay in Afghanistan as reason to finally get rid of those cuts and push their budget up.
So it seems as though they're going to have a friendly ally in, the Republican Congress.
I think that's about 70% true. I think there's a large and probably a majority of Republicans want a big defense budget. But there also are the Tea Party budget hawks who have cheered on these cuts. They're seeing cuts to the Pentagon as still cutting government spending, as reducing the deficit.
I agree with them.
Well, and I think Democrats also split on that front. I think there are some Democrats who see these cuts as dangerous, and some Democrats who are okay with the cuts to the Pentagon and obviously want more spending on the domestic side of things now that we are winding down these wars. But this is going to be the big fight, I think, within the Republican Party, and it's going to play out in Congress, but also on the campaign trail.
So. It is going to play on the campaign trail, and I'm pretty sure we'll hear more from you. Jeremy Herb, thank you so much for being on the Bill Press Show. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Happy New Year.
You as well.
We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing done. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Richard Fowler here, filling in for the one and only Bill Press, the incomparable, the amazing, the all things good. He's on a vacay, so they decided to have me, his long-lost twin. Yes, indeed, America, it is true. Me and Bill Press were twins, separated at birth, and now, you know, he's on vacation and I'm stuck here with you until the new year, but I promise I will drive you into the new year, even though the car will be missing 2 headlights and 3 tires and only 1 door. You will get there, America. And as always, as Bill says, each and every day, there's a seat for you here at the table. So go ahead and give us a call, 1-866-55-PRESS, or hit us up on Twitter at BP Show or at Richard A. Fowler. I thought, you know, since we're going into the new year and all things newness about the new year, it is also an opportunity for us to think about how we can impact our community the best. Whether that is volunteering at, you know, a soup kitchen or picking up trash on the corner. We all can do something in this new year, and I think we should all make it part of our New Year's resolution to do something to impact and help our community. So I know this is away from politics and it's above the minutia and the cloud of gook here in Washington. So Joining us is the Chief Service Officer for the District of Columbia, an AmeriCorps alumni, and the Director of Serve DC, Jeffrey Richardson. Welcome to the Bill Press Show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so tell me, Jeffrey, really, I think in the new year, we should all commit, and I think everybody here on the Bill Press Show, even Neil, the guy working the cameras, we're all committing to doing service in the new year.
Well, thank you for that commitment. Yes, I think,
we'll see how long it lasts, but.
Well, yeah. Well,
we actually might have to set up a Bill Press community service project with your organization.
There you go.
For the new year. It'll be a present for Bill when he gets back.
I will join too. And I'll even wear the sweater, America.
I'm going to hold y'all to that.
Will you please?
Well, no, I think that, this time of year, everybody's making New Year's resolutions and commitments and reflection. So why not make a commitment to service? Why not make a commitment to figure out what you can do in your community, in your way, to have an impact or to address an issue that you care about? And it can be big or small. It can be a one-time thing or something sustained. But let's make the commitment. There's lots of conversation, particularly here in Washington, D.C., about the big issues of the day and how do we address challenges. Well, we all can play a part in it. We don't have to wait for government. We don't have to wait for Congress to act, which we know.
That will never happen.
We can all play a part in making our community safer and stronger. And service is a major part of that.
No, and I totally agree with that. I think that, if we see an issue, a pressing issue in our community, that is the easiest way to fix it, is by saying, you know what, we're going to go out here and we're going to be the fix. Instead of waiting for, the city to come and trim the trees on your street, you could just trim them yourself and work with the community to get it done.
Exactly. Build those relationships. Oftentimes if we think about volunteerism and we think about service, and it has to be some big major act, or I have to have a lot of money to give somebody, or I have to commit a large amount of hours and go every week. No, figure out something that you're passionate about, something that you care about, and commit your time, talent, and if you can, your treasure, and offer it. Whether that is, again, a one-time thing. You may like computer. My father loves computers. He's a computer geek, retired from IBM. So you know what he does? He helps build computers for folks, particularly seniors in his church and his community that don't have them. He refurbishes computers and gives them out. Something that he loves to do. That's a hobby of his anyway. So that's his way of giving back. So there's so many different ways for folks to contribute and give back in their community.
No, I think you're so right. And I mean, my mom, when she's a NICU nurse, and what she likes to do is when new moms are around in the church or in the community, she'll be the first one to sort of go to their house and help take care of the baby and, teach them all things they need to know about being a mother. And I think it's a great way to give back while also doing something that you really love and what you really care about.
No, totally. And, if you're not certain, how to find those opportunities, in this age of social media and, web portals, there's so many opportunities to find something in your
What are some of them?
In your local community. Well, one national one that a lot of folks are familiar with is Volunteer Match. You can go and get a sense of opportunities across the country with different organizations. For those of you that are tapped in and, on LinkedIn, LinkedIn now has a volunteer aspect to your profile where people can post volunteer opportunities and you can share the organizations that you volunteer with. And if you're just totally, not sure where to go and you're on Facebook, post it on your status. Say, I'm looking for a volunteer opportunity. I'd like to connect in community. And I guarantee you somebody in your network is going to give you a shout out and make a suggestion.
I love that. And now, we do have to get back to Washington because this is the nature of the Bill Press Show and what we do. So as we sort of come up on this next budget battle, I think people forget that in this sort of big budget fight is what we do, talking about service, about those people who committed their livelihood to service, whether it be AmeriCorps, whether it be a city year, which is the AmeriCorps program, the Peace Corps, who they've committed their lives to service, and the government sort of helps in part of that process. And they've been, part of this budget battle that nobody talks about.
No, totally. And I think we've actually made some major strides when it comes to support for national service programs and volunteer programs affiliated with the AmeriCorps National Service over the last 2 years. And, a lot of people, there was a time when it was a partisan issue and folks thought, I can't support AmeriCorps because of Bill Clinton, or I can't support national service. But I think we're moving to a place now folks realize that national service isn't a partisan issue. There are AmeriCorps members and national service members serving in blue states and red states in purple states and, Democratic districts, Republican districts across the country, figuring out how we can get things done, giving their time and talent to address the pressing issues of the day.
And, I got to tell you, I think there really needs to be, while there are campaigns for everything, there's campaigns to raise funding for X, campaigns to raise funding for Y out of Congress. I really feel as though there has to be a consistent effort to make sure that we're funding people who want to go into service, whether that be, working with at-risk youth or working in the community, reading, Jumpstart, all the programs that AmeriCorps funds. And I got to tell you, I think there needs to be a sort of like a campaign, and maybe there is one and I'm missing it, and that's fine. Around really giving and funding service and really making a commitment to fund service and really pushing it beyond just funding it, making sure that there's a PR machine behind it to make sure that high school students know and college students know that they have these options.
Well, yes, there is, many AmeriCorps alums like myself and other supporters are really galvanizing around that idea. And the idea that any American who wants to have the opportunity to serve should have that opportunity, whether it's a gap year after high school or after college, or whether it's professional service. Maybe you're coming out of law school and you want to give your time and talent to support legal aid. You should be able to do that. And so there's many organizations that are working to make that happen. One, the National Conference on Citizenship is working. The Franklin Project is doing some great work to make service an option for any American and to create the opportunity so that individuals who want to support financially can support creating service years for individuals across this country. So look forward to the coming year in 2015. Lots of great things coming out of talking about a national service platform and how do we really make that a reality for all Americans.
Bipartisan, I'm assuming it should be.
Oh, yes, it is. It is. It is. If you go learn some of the conversations that's been happening led by General McChrystal out of the Franklin Project about how we should have a national sort of civilian corps that's comparable when we look at our civilian military service. So those individuals, again, who want to give back domestically should be able to do so. And we should support that, particularly at a time when we look at continued, economic crisis and issues. Government can't do it alone. So why not support individuals in our country who want to give their time and talent to address some of these
challenges?
Listen,
I agree with you 100%, and I think, sometimes history repeats itself, and I think FDR had it right in, after the great, how we rebuild our economy is we invest in our greatest resource, our people. And that's exactly what he did. He gave a lot of money to the Civilian Conservation Corps. He gave a lot of money to different projects where it basically paid Americans to make their communities better. And I think that is it's a good thing.
And that's what, as AmeriCorps National Service, that's what we're doing. We're getting things done, whether it's in education, whether it's in homelessness and housing, whether it's veterans and military family issues, which we talk a lot about. There are AmeriCorps members out there, whether it's disaster and crisis response. We have teams across the country that are responding to natural disasters, all across the country to help build our communities and make them safer and more resilient.
I love it. I think, and I think the hope is, because you rarely get things through this Congress, but the hope is that we get this Congress, and in this budget bill, they say, we can all agree that we need to do a better job funding service and making our communities better, whether they're blue communities or red communities or purple communities. As our good friend Mark Pryor would say, they're all red, white, and blue communities to us here.
And I think that's happened. We've had some great leadership around national service here over the last 2 years, and I think that we're making major strides where we're actually really seeing folks get it on the ground in communities. They're sort of breaking out of the Washington bubble and understanding that when it comes down, to that family who needs that support, in rural North Carolina, it doesn't matter whether, who started AmeriCorps. It doesn't matter a Democrat or Republican. They need the support. And if there's a AmeriCorps member, a national service member on the ground who can provide that support, we need to embrace it and we need to invest in it.
I got to tell you, I think, it's a valuable thing. And so you'll come back in the next segment. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But where can folks, just so we repeat the websites, if you are trying to engage in service, and I know this is off the beaten path for us here at the show, but, listen, folks, we're going into a new year. You're going to get your gym memberships and all the other things that you do, and you're probably going to go on the, Atkins diet or whatever new low-carb diet they have. You can also commit to service in the new year, once a week, once a month, I don't know, once a quarter, I could care less. How do they do it?
All right. There's some great opportunities easily found thanks to the internet. Well, Volunteer Match is a great site. Again, just Google volunteermatch.com to connect you with local opportunities. We have the Points of Light Foundation, which is a great organization that's really supporting expanding volunteerism service across the country. And they have their hands-on network and hands-on affiliates. So give them a search and they can connect you locally. You also have your state commissions for national service and volunteerism that can connect you with organizations. Some of them are that are affiliated with AmeriCorps and have AmeriCorps members that you can tap into. And those can be found via the Corporation for National Community Service website, as well as the Association for State Service Commissions.
Well, Jeffrey, you're staying with the next segment, but right now we've got to pay some bills here on the Bill Press Show. So you don't go anywhere. You stay with us here, too. There's a seat for you at the table. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
On your radio, on TV, and online, yours truly, Richard Fowler, filling in for the incomparable, amazing, progressive man of the morning, Bill Press, who is on a very, very well-needed vacay. So, hey, I decided I would come in, I barged my way in here this morning to fill in for him, and I'm happy that you've joined us. We're coming down to the final moments, not only of the show, but also of 2015. 2014. It's so sad. Yes, indeed, America. But don't worry, because 2015 is just on the horizon, and all the good and newness of 2015 will be great, and all the oldness and drabness of 2014 will be over. And as part of that, in your newness, hopefully you will commit to service. We're joined by the Chief Service Officer of the District of Columbia and the Director of Serve DC, Jeff Richardson. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So this is the thing with me and this whole, you have Democrats who, I mean, most, I think service, I think we could all agree in the Bill Press four walls, that service is like a total bipartisan thing.
Totally. Should be.
And I just think both parties should just be like, we're going to get behind service, something we could do together, and it should be in both of our party platforms. And we should just commit to service.
I like that call. I like that ask. It should happen. It should happen. We're coming up in 2016 with an election. Party platforms will be shaped.
From my mouth to the party elders' ears, right? Like maybe some sort of caucus, something, an ideal to really galvanize us around service, because it's one of the best ways to not only give back to your community, but it's also a great way to grow the economy.
Oh, totally. And the other thing about service and volunteerism is that, it's not just all altruism, right? It's okay that individuals who are performing service get some benefit from it. Individuals develop skills that they didn't have, that opportunity to expand your network. There's a report that came out from the Corporation National Community Service that says that individuals who volunteer are more likely to find jobs because of their expanded network, because of the skill building that's happening there. So, there's so many positives to service beyond just filling the gap needs. And it should be something that all Americans, again, Democrat or Republican or independent in between, get around and believe, particularly at a time when we look at many of the pressing issues of the day that can be addressed through volunteerism service and pro bono services, those who have the skills and experience and education in a particular area who are willing to give their time gratis.
No, and I think beyond that point, I think talk about this in the last segment. So you have the volunteerism, that part of it. So you also have those folks who they do AmeriCorps, they do, city year, and they decide to give a gap year or longer than that to service. And the government, our fond government as it is giving them a paycheck. But that money literally goes from the government's coffers. Not only are they getting paid to pour into our economy with their work, but their paychecks also go to funding our economy. It's like the best. It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, totally. We call it their living stipend, and many Corps members, they're living stipend. They're living at the poverty rate. So imagine, many Americans they're living off of $12,000, $13,000 a year, and they're putting that money back into community. In many cases, I know many Corps members who are also putting that money back into the programs that they're supporting because they're buying extra supplies. They're buying meals for the students or the clients that they're working with. So there's a total give back there that we all should be supporting.
And Richard, what Jeffrey was saying earlier about how it could lead to a job, interestingly enough, here in D.C. when I first moved here, I did some broadcasting and stuff, and then I was volunteering for the D.C. Jazz Festival. They ended up, after maybe just a couple weeks of volunteering, they fired 2 people and hired me. And I was like one of the producers for the Jazz Festival. And that was just because, I have kind of the heart of the volunteer. You want to go out and help people. And it does maybe, if you are looking to get into certain arenas, it may be a way in the door as well.
Yeah, you have the natural opportunity to prove yourself. Folks get to see your commitment, your work ethic, your passion, as she said, for the issue, and you build those relationships. And more, we know that, that's how people are getting employed. It's through relationships. And volunteerism is a great opportunity to do that. And again, it doesn't have to be something stodgy. Oh, I got to volunteer, doing something I don't want to do. Tap into what you love. There's a great organization in D.C. that I've got excited about when I learned about it, and it's Teams Run DC. And it's a mentoring organization. But what it is individuals who like to run, you know what they do? They go at least once a week and they run with high schoolers. And they prepare those high schoolers to do either a 5K or a marathon at the end of the year. And they're building that relationship. But they're doing it while they're doing something that they love and something that the teenager loves.
No, I think that is, I think you're on the money there. It's one of those things. It's just, I think if we can, and I think if we do more of it as a country, right, we can really change. And I think if you look at the other parts of the world, other developed nations, volunteerism is part of what you do. Sometimes you have to graduate high school or graduate college and go right into the service industry and volunteer. And that is seen as a very admirable thing, or, give service right back to your community. here in this country haven't gotten that far yet, but I think we can get there. But I think it's, really something that we got to consider.
No, totally. Particularly when we look at, many of our young people who are coming out of high school and college, and there are not as much opportunities readily available. Well, let's embrace and create the opportunities for them to serve and them to give back and give. And we know and we see that particularly individuals, particularly post high school and college, who do go into volunteerism or service, who do a service year, usually they end up going back into that sector. So if we look at education, a lot of our folks are in school. We talk a lot about literacy and school transformation. We have core members in schools across the country, and many of them go back and become teachers. The nonprofit sector, the government service sector. I love it. We also have the opportunity to create an amazing farm team of leaders for the next generation.
Farm team of leaders for the next generation. Jeffrey Richardson from Serve DC, the Chief Service Officer. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Bill Press Show. We'll be right back after this break.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And we're back on the Bill Press Show. So one thing we do at the end of the Fowler Show, every show, is we do the Richard Fowler moment, which is, our chance to give back to you. So I will call this the Bill Press moment. And I would like to end the show with a quote from good old Vince Lombardi, who says the measure of who we are is what we do with what we have. And I think it's very fitting that, we talked about service. And as we go into this new year, think about who you are and use what you have to make this world a better place, whether it's in your own family, in your community, or in anything that you do. Just use what you have to make the world better. And that's the only thing you can do to make the world better. So from all of us here at The Bill Press Show, you have a wonderful morning. Thanks to the wonderful team here. And guess what, folks? You'll see me tomorrow. Thank you.
This is The Bill Press Show.